Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into a new season and another episode of The Doc is In. Um, this episode is not at all what I planned for. Um, I've been off of YouTube for a bit, and I decided that when I came back, I would be able to kind of do more up-tempo stuff and talk to you about the changes that have taken place in my life since actually graduating and getting my degree conferred and all that good stuff. However, that's not quite our reality right now. We came upon a lot of adversity in the last 2 to 3 months, especially with the killings of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, um, and so many others who don't have names and didn't have somebody what recording their demise, unfortunately. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about the state of our country right now, but also I want to talk a little bit about the situation as a whole. So the reality of the fact is I'm a therapist. Um, my goal is always to try and find the positives in things and help people to cope with adverse situations, teach them coping skills even. Um, but the fact of the matter is, I'm a black therapist. And in my mind and in my heart, I know that there's such a thing as racial trauma. It's real and it affects us all on a day to day basis. I often tell people, there are certain things that you can change, you can hide, you can try to cover up. Um, but for me, being black was never one of them. If you look back into last season, I actually did a video called Being Black in America. I mean, the fact of the matter is, this is not something that I can choose to say I am or I'm not. Um, it's kind of there for the world to see when I walk around. It's there for people to see when I walk around. And it comes with so many positives and so many benefits because I am so proud of my heritage. I'm so proud of the lineage that I come from, the strength of the people who endured such adversity but still pushed through. I'm proud of that and I take great pride in that. However, I believe it may have been Paul Mooney who said something to the effect of, "Man, I'm just tired sometimes of being black. Uh, it's tiresome because you're never able to just exist. You're always seemingly fighting for something that you should be given as a citizen, as someone who is a person of value. You always seem to be fighting and pulling up the rear when it comes right down to it. I remember an expression saying that you have to work twice as hard for half a chance. And it's the truth. It is honestly the truth. And when we're talking about being black in America, it's hard to get beyond the history of systemic and institutionalized and historical racism that has plagued people of color, especially black people, in America since probably back in the 1400s. I mean, I know a lot of people like to use 1619 at Jamestown and say, okay, well, slavery started when the first slaves arrived in Jamestown at 1619. That's inaccurate because you can find lots of records that show that there were Africans scattered about the U.S. as early as the early to mid 1400s. So we're looking at 600 years plus, probably, of slavery and of oppression and of ingrained senses of entitlement. Um, So when you have a system that has been in place this long, it's very difficult for people to accept a change. I mean, and let's face it, for all intents and purposes, black people weren't, equal in this country for the most part up until what, the Civil Rights Act of 1965 or 1964. Forgive me, I'm messing that year up. It's 65 or 64. I'm pretty sure it's 64. But we weren't equal until then. When people said, "Hey, you have to let black and white kids go to school together. You have to give them equal chances at education and all of these things." And even then, you dealt with so much pushback from generally Southern, generally those in the majority, pushing back against, hey, no, my kids won't go to school with these kids, or, why should we change? I'm happy with things as they are. And I feel like today, in this very same vein, we're getting the Karens, if you will, where there are these people in the majority, white people, we can call it what it is, and who will stop a black person and say, well, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. And it's unfortunate that that is still the sense of entitlement that so many people have. It's unfortunate that as a person of color, as a black person, you can't just take a jog down the street without someone targeting you. You can't feel that you'll be protected if you get stopped at a traffic stop, because who's to say that I won't deal with an officer who is afraid of me, even though I've given him no reason to be. What he's afraid of is his own stereotypes, and he's afraid of his own ignorance, and he's afraid of his own sense of entitlement. And because of that, now I've become someone to be afraid of. And it's really disheartening. Um, I have a lot of friends and my nephews and fraternity brothers who, I care for very deeply. And so to have the thought in my head that what happens when one of them gets stopped by the police? Will they make it out of that traffic stop alive? That's that's a pretty difficult pill to swallow. And to be quite honest, it's one that those in the majority, that people who are white will never really understand. Um, I don't fault you because you don't understand. I fault you because you don't try to understand. I fault you because you would rather dismiss what's happening as a one-off, as oh well, he must have done something. He must have had it coming. Ultimately, no one does something or has their imminent demise coming. Um, this is something that is murder. You can try and call it something different, but it's murder. Um, I'm not saying that all police officers are bad. They're not. I've met some amazing police officers who've gone above and beyond the call of duty in the hope of serving, the citizens of a city. And I don't think all police officers are bad. But I do believe that there are bad police officers who are often protected by the system. So when you ask me something like, well, what would you do? Just get rid of all the police? No, I wouldn't do that. I'd get rid of bad police. I do better jobs of screening police. That way, when I do pick those who are in my department, they would not be, basically little boys with complexes who were bullied as kids and now want to spend the rest of their lives bullying other people. I pick people who honestly have a heart to help and actually want to do good things and help others and save lives. You know, the concept of arrest in and of itself is that you're taking me into your custody. You're taking me into your care, and that means that you have just become responsible for my life. You don't get the right to treat me as less than a human. When unfortunately I watched George Floyd's final moments on video, I felt felt so many things. I was sick to my stomach, to be quite honest. Um, I was confused. I was angry. I was so many things. But above all else, my question became, when did we become a society where I can just sit and watch someone murder someone else, not intervene, not say, hey, he's dying, not say, hey, he needs help. I'm just going to record it. Like, just for posterity's sake. It's concerning, to say the least. But my question also went to, if this were a dog, just honestly a dog, would people be okay with this? Or would people be outraged? Like, why are you killing a dog out in the middle of the street? This was a singular black man being held down by four cowards. And I say it, and I don't apologize for it. These are four cowards. There's no way that you can tell me that any of you felt threatened enough that it would take four of you to hold this man down. Secondly, I'm so annoyed with people trying to disprove or discredit him by saying, oh, well, I could have laid on the ground and there could have been a knee on my neck. You know what? You did your experiment with you and one other person. Let four grown people kneel on you and see how that works. The Minnesota coroner put out a statement saying that, oh, well, he didn't die from of asphyxiation. What he died from was coronary issues, and he had cardiac issues. He had all of these things going on, and plus on top of that, he had substances in his system. Do you believe, in all honesty, that this man would not have died had there not been four adult males laying or kneeling on him? I mean, what do you really take me for? This situation has highlighted things that have existed in America for so long. And now, the worst part about it all is that the leadership that we're under, unfortunately, doesn't see African Americans, doesn't see people of color, doesn't see anybody in the minority that is without resources, capital, however you want to put it, as important. So he calls them thugs because they're rioting, because they're protesting. And I want to be clear about something. I've watched video after video. The looters are not all African American. Actually, it seems like there's a very small segment that are. But why are we not seeing more videos of the people who are looting who are not black? Because to be quite honest, it's one thing to riot and to protest. I think I'm not a fan of violence by any means. I'm not a fan of going up to people and trying to flip their cars or breaking into businesses, because unfortunately the businesses that suffer are oftentimes small, minority owned businesses, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm not okay with that, because I feel like we are better than that as a people and we need to act accordingly. However, what I do want to point out is that oftentimes there are people who are intentionally trying to instigate violence from black people. There are people who are intentionally trying to portray something as though it is what it is not. Don't tell me that these officers kneeling in this man's neck didn't kill him. Don't tell me that only black people are robbing stores or looting stores. That is not the case. I will not accept that. Create a narrative about us that is just simply not true. And unfortunately, with the person that we have in the White House, that's just going to be something that he's going to try and use to his advantage. I believe it's MLK who said something to the effect of rioting is the language of the unheard and the oppressed. Hey man, we pretty much fit that bill. Tick all the boxes on that. Fannie Lou Hamer said, until everybody's free, nobody's free. And that's also true. If you can look at the situation and say, well, this doesn't apply to me, I'd encourage you to truly ask yourself what your ideals are. What are your values? Because this applies to everybody. If you're living in a place where injustice is prevalent and it is so blatant as this has been, it applies to you. And if you don't see where it applies to you, I'm pretty sure you're a part of the problem. Being complicit with the problem makes you a part of the problem. Ultimately, again, I want to say I don't think all cops are bad. I think there are a lot of really good cops. I think there are some guys out there, and I appreciate them for going out there and putting themselves on the line. There are good cops out there. And for those who are, keep it up, man. For all those people who are white, who are of any other color, but who see the value in protesting alongside their black brothers and sisters, kudos to you. Now more than ever, voting is important. Voting is important. And again, those duplicitous people who work alongside President Trump and his band of hooligans, they would, if you let them, they will loot and steal your vote. They're pushing and saying, oh, well, we shouldn't do mail-in voting because there's fraud in mail-in voting. Well, last election, we clearly saw that there's fraud in electronic voting too. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about the lesser of two evils, when we're talking about the importance of voting, when we're talking about, well, I don't like either candidate. Hey, at this point, none of my original picks made it to the finals, but hey, ultimately I got to live under one of them, and either I can live under, Commander-in-Chief Chester Cheetah, or I can live with Joe Biden. Do I particularly like either one? God, no. But, aside from a good writing candidate who's viable, I don't see another option. So pick one. Which one do you want to live under? Do you want 4 more years of what we've been dealing with? Or do you want someone who can at least try to make a change somewhere? The thing about it is, conscientious ignorance and stupidity are dangerous. That is outright dangerous. When you obviously know better, but you're dealing with so many personality issues that you can't, see what's important. I don't understand how a leader of a nation in the midst of a riot and a pandemic can say, oh, well, I'm going to play golf. Oh, I'm going to get on Twitter and be angry because Twitter fact-checked my tweets. Come on. We have to do better than this. I mean, if you want to, while we're defunding the police, can we please impeach this jackal from the White House? And ultimately, this month is Pride Month. Kind of started, secondary to everything else going on. And with that also being said, kudos to every current graduate, class of 2020. Congrats, everyone. There's a lot of things that would normally be happening that are not, all because of the pandemic, the current riots, our current state of affairs in general. Because of that, Pride Month started with basically a whimper. There was not a whole lot going on there. But what I want to say is this. When I think of the word pride, when I think of the word, when I think of the word in general, it just, in my opinion, means that you're happy, you're almost, I don't want to use boastful, but you're proud of the group you belong to, you're proud of whatever is happening, and you boldly claim who you are. The knowledge of who you are is something very important. Belonging to multiple minority groups, however you want to look at it, racial, that of sexual orientation, that of socioeconomic status, however you want to look at it, doesn't matter. Belonging to minority groups is a very interesting thing because you always seem to be fighting for something. Fighting to be seen, fighting to be heard, fighting for equality, fighting for something. My question to you all is, what are you fighting for? No matter who you are, I'm sure that there's something there to fight for. So I want to say Happy Pride Month. Congrats to the class of 2020. And above all else, America, we need to do better. There has to be a better way forward than this. I still have hope, and I still believe that America can live up to its ideals, but not in the way we're going. We have to be better, and we have to do better, and we have to understand that there is more that unites us than divides us. At the end of the day, my friends come in all colors. My family comes in all colors. I don't believe that all people of any color are ill meaning or ill intent or have ill intent. There are a lot of people who mean very well, but unfortunately, it just doesn't show itself. To everyone, I want you to know something. Your silence makes you an accomplice. Never forget that. People won't care where you were when times were good, but where were you when things were hard? Where were you when things really got deep? Because that's when I need a friend. That's when I need an ally. So, that being said, remember, America has a debt to pay. One that's almost 600 years old. So, let's see what happens. Also, I know my timeline has been riddled with a lot of conversation around this topic. And there have been a lot of people saying, well, this person had it coming, this person didn't have it coming. So for those of you who are offended by this video, there's a subscribe button, like buttons, there are lots of stuff there. You can feel free to unsubscribe. This is who I am. And I'm not apologetic about it. Pretty happy about it. So, signing off, I'm a black therapist. Hang in there.